Okay, so Nick Sirianni and Howie Roseman just held their end-of-season press conference, and a lot came out of it, including a promise from Nick Sirianni to the Eagles organization and the city of Philadelphia. So, will he deliver on it? Also, are the Eagles about to hire this historically great defensive coordinator to come in and fix the defense? Plus, Sirianni spoke about what he's looking for in the Eagles' next offensive coordinator after firing Brian Johsnon, and it seems that this former head coach is a very realistic possibility to replace him. Plus, this Eagles wide receiver got fired up while defending Jalen Hurts as he blasted the media for accusing him of being a bad leader. So let's talk about that and everything else from our crazy past couple days. And we won't waste any time, let's get straight into it. Alright, so let's start off with something fun, because Jason Kelce finally got the chance to speak on his antics at the Chiefs game during the latest episode of New Heights, and what he said on the podcast only makes what he actually did even funnier.
You celebrated my touchdown by taking off your shirt, screaming, jumping out of the suite, chugging a beer with the fans, then jumping back into the suite. I watched this and it was pure pandemonium. There was not enough cameras on the suite where you could see Kylie, though. I wanted to see her reaction to all of this so bad.
I'm not gonna lie, I gave Kylie a heads up. The moment we got into the suite, I said, I'm taking my shirt off and I'm jumping out of that suite. And she said, Jason, don't you dare. I was like, hey, just letting you know what's happening. I'm not asking for permission. I'm doing this.
Once a Kelce man's determined, there's no stopping him.
And she was already telling me to be on my best behavior because we were meeting Taylor.
This is hilarious.
I was like, Kylie, when I met you, the first day I met you, I was blacked out drunk and fell asleep at the bar. This is part of the charm. This is part of the Jason Kelce charm. I want to make my best first impression. This is my best chance.
My best first impression is the worst impression ever, so I could just build from that point on. Yeah, exactly.
So not only did he put on an absolute show by doing what he did, but apparently this was also his first time meeting Taylor Swift, so what a first impression that was. I mean, like he said, it's part of the Jason Kelce charm. I mean, this guy's a legend. I selfishly really hope that he decides to come back to the Eagles for just one more year. But speaking of the Eagles, they went out and made a bunch of smaller roster moves yesterday, signing 20 players to reserve/future contracts, a list that includes many familiar names like LaRaven Clark, Mekhi Gardner, Joseph Nkata, and the newly acquired Austin Watkins, among many others. So these are guys we'll start to hear a little bit more about once the Birds come back for OTAs, but of course, that's a long ways away. Just like the draft is pretty far away too, but the Eagles recently got some good news regarding that as well, as the Eagles are set to receive 4 compensatory picks in this coming draft due to the players that they lost in last year's free agency. Now the picks include a 3rd round pick and 3 5th round picks, so that's certainly a lot of ammo for Howie to snag some more impact players, or to use in trades to then acquire better picks or players. So with this news, and of course the news that we've already gotten regarding coordinators being fired, I'd say this offseason is off to a pretty decent start. And speaking of news on the coordinators, we got the official word yesterday that offensive coordinator Brian Johsnon had in fact been fired, a move that we all saw coming due to a previous report from Derek Gunn saying that all indications were pointing to BJ and the Eagles parting ways, and now of course it has officially happened, which if you're a fan of the Philadelphia Eagles, then this news should make you really happy. I mean, we know how much the Eagles offense took a hit with the transition from Steichen to Johnson, and we also saw BJ's clear deficiencies in play calling, so it was clear that the OC just had to go. But apparently internally, many Eagles coaches actually aren't happy about this, with ESPN's Jeremy Fowler reporting that, quote, there's some weird vibes out of there. I just don't know that everybody on the staff is happy about everything that's gone down, especially with Brian Johsnon, who was sort of caught up in the middle. So those comments definitely raised some eyebrows. I mean, that definitely leaves you to speculate whether or not many feel like Johnston was being held back by Nick Sirianni and his offensive schemes and game plans, but if that's the case, then why didn't the Eagles offense experience the same problems with Shane Steichen as the OC and play caller? I mean, regardless of the clear issues with Sirianni's scheme, I think it's clear that Brian Johsnon was not exactly the brightest when it came to calling plays, unless Sirianni has more input than we thought. I mean, I really don't know. Again, as I've said before, I think this situation is a lot more complicated than we even realize, and you can't just put the blame on one person. I really do think it's a combination of everybody, but I think the reason you do see it playing out this way is because the Eagles have already had plenty of success before with Nick Sirianni as the head coach with different coordinators, when Brian Johsnon or the other guys haven't earned that same benefit of the doubt. But again, with that being said, it's definitely not good to hear that there's some dysfunction brewing within the Eagles coaching staff and organization. And to add on to it, then we got to talk about this report regarding Jalen Hurts, detailing how he's apparently all of a sudden a bad leader, as an article written by Joseph Sanalaquito of Bleeding Green Nation detailed how this season, Jalen Hurts may not have been able to live up to being the leader that the fan base thinks of him as this report and others have explained how the Eagles, they want Jalen Hurts to be more of a vocal leader that puts himself out there more, and that his reserved nature kind of gets in the way of him being a good leader sometimes. And the article details how one source on the team apparently described Hurts as a, quote, good dude who doesn't know when he's acting like a prima donna. It was also said that the team has tried to include him in off-the-field hangouts and things like that, but he blows them off, and he apparently also has been described with words such as, quote, detached, stoic, isolated, and unapproachable, with that last one tying perfectly into what Barrett Brooks reported that wide receiver Britain Covey had said about Hurts, being despite Jalen Hurts having an open-door policy, his demeanor and closed-off nature makes him intimidating to go talk to, or in other words, unapproachable. I gotta say, this kind of all sounds like a bunch of crap, to be honest. I mean, one, nothing came out about Hurts' apparent negative leadership when the team was winning for the past 2.5 years before this past 7-game skid to end the season. In fact, everyone thought of this guy as an incredible leader. Not a single one of his teammates ever had anything negative to say about him. In fact, many of them have publicly praised Hurts, his work ethic, and of course, his leadership. And I mean, one of the main reasons that guys like Jason Kelce and Brandon Graham have stuck around for as long as they have is because of Jalen Hurts. And on top of this, do you really think that Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman would shell out the biggest contract in Eagles history, with a no trade clause, by the way, to this guy without making sure that there was no issue with his leadership, especially after they had just had one with a guy named Carson Wentz? I don't think so. I mean, come on, what are we doing here? Plus, that whole spiel by Barrett Brooks talking about what Covey said is completely taken out of context. I mean, Jeff McClain, which, by the way, I may owe him an apology after clowning him over the whole Fletcher Cox situation, he defended Hurts, saying that Covey commended Hurts' leadership style and basically said what Brooks relayed is entirely taken out of context, and then Britain Covey himself actually took to Twitter to debunk this as well, saying, quote, normally I don't respond to things like this because I'd hope that people don't believe everything they hear/read. Jalen is the best leader I've ever been around. So you can hear it straight from me, not someone else. I never said he was unapproachable or I was scared of him. Someone asked me if Jalen's stoic personality turned people away and if he was intimidating or unapproachable, to which I basically said that I've had coaches like that in the past, but Jalen wasn't like that. And the moment you talk with him, you realize how approachable he is. I truly don't get this narrative. Jalen's authenticity is what makes him a great leader. He'll eat lunch with the lowest ranking guys on the team, like myself. He is also a great friend and a teammate. So one massive shout out to Britain Covey for sticking up for Hurts like that. But now can we please stop with this stupid idea that Jalen Hurts is a bad leader? I mean, I really think this is way overblown, and I just have a hard time really believing it after all we've heard the past 2.5 years before the collapse was how great of a leader Jalen was, plus with Covey defending him like this. Now in terms of Jalen's season on the field, it was interesting to say the least, as despite him definitely struggling at times with things like turnovers and getting the ball out quickly, it's worth noting that Jalen Hurts' turnovers this season are pretty fluky when you look at the numbers, as despite having 20 turnovers, which was 4th most in the entire NFL, his turnover-worthy play rate was just 2.3%, which was 6th lowest. Plus, Jalen was never really put in great positions to succeed by the coaching staff, and he was still able to put up decent numbers, including an Eagles franchise record 38 total touchdowns. I mean, I'm telling you, don't overreact to this year acting like Jalen majorly regressed or anything like that. Just get him a real OC and see what happens. Now, Nick Sirianni spoke about what he's looking for in the next Eagles offensive coordinator in his end-of-season press conference, and I'm not going to lie, I do like what I heard.
To me, we got a little bit stale on offense by the end. At the end of the year, and these ideas and this new person coming in is meant to take away the staleness and add the value of what they're adding to the offense.
Nick, just for clarification though, it'll be your scheme and you'll have final authority on what is run.
Yeah, it's our scheme. It will be our scheme of what we're doing, and so again, I don't know exactly what that will look like yet, right? We're bringing in a guy to bring in new ideas, to do the things that he's done in the past. We're going through an extensive search to get that right person. We're working on getting the best guy in here for the job, and a guy who has a vision, a guy who's going to call the plays. A guy who's going to be able to coach the quarterback in the same sense there, but I'm hiring him to do a job and to be in charge of the offense.
So again, I really do like this, because the guy, even though it is way late, finally admitted that they may have to make some big changes to get the offense rolling again. I mean, he said they had gotten stale on offense at the end of the season, which is definitely true, and he also said that this new guy is going to come in and implement their ideas and run a lot of what they have in the past. So again, it sounds like big schematic changes will be coming to the offense next year, which is exactly what we need. Now it's just about finding the right guy. And we did recently get word on a potential real candidate to be the next offensive coordinator, as the Eagles apparently interviewed former Cardinals head coach and USC offensive assistant Kliff Kingsbury for the open position. And there's really a lot to unpack with this possibility, both good and bad. So let's start with the bad, being that, as Shane Half pointed out, Quote, "Are you tired of an Eagles offense that ranked 4th in RPO usage, 32nd in motion, 32nd in under center rate, and 31st in designed rollout rate? Then maybe I could interest you in Kliff Kingsbury, a guy who couldn't win games with Patrick Mahomes in college, who failed upwards into an NFL head coaching job, and then who pieced together an offense that ranked 8th in RPO usage, 30th in motion, 32nd in under center rate, and 27th in designed rollout rate." And while yes, Half did make a lot of good points there, I mean, I can't deny that Kliff wasn't the greatest head coach of the Cardinals, and it is very frustrating at times that the Eagles offense uses no motion and doesn't line up under center while relying heavily on the RPO, but we also do all praise Shane Steichen, and under him the Eagles offense didn't really use any motion either, and they relied very heavily on the RPO, and of course they were very, very, very successful. I mean, I personally think that the Eagles offensive struggles this year were more so on the play calling and the simplicity of the route designs, rather than the principles of the RPO and no motion, because we've seen the Eagles obviously have success with those things in the past. I mean, in hiring Kliff, you would get a guy that utilizes an air raid scheme that uses a lot of shallow crosses and yak plays over the middle of the field, something that the Eagles offense was sorely lacking this year, and it also emphasizes getting the ball out of the quarterback's hands quickly, which one plays to the strengths of A.J. Brown, of course, as he's great over the middle of the field and in catch and run situations, but it would also help Jalen Hurts a lot against the blitz especially. I mean, Kyler Murray improved drastically under Kingsbury, particularly against the blitz from 2019 to 2021, and the Cardinals offense just overall improved a lot during the course of those 3 years until, of course, things went bad in that last year in 2022. Plus, just overall, I mean, the route concepts would be a lot more creative for all the receivers. Look at some of these D-hop route trees under Kingsbury and tell me that A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith wouldn't dominate being utilized like that. Plus, in regards to Kliff's struggles as a head coach, I mean, some guys are just better as coordinators, and that's fine, so I don't know. The more I hear about it, the more I'm open to it, but I get there are definitely some reasons to worry or be skeptical, so I'm not 100% committed, and I still do want to look into some other guys. But what would you guys think about a potential Kingsbury hiring? Now, in addition, as of today, we got word on a big-time candidate for the Eagles' open defensive coordinator position, as literally during Howie and Nick's end-of-season press conference, Adam Schefter broke the news that, quote, "The Dolphins and Vic Fangio have mutually agreed to part ways. Fangio now will be the top target for the Philadelphia Eagles to hire as their defensive coordinator, and a deal is expected. Miami is allowing Fangio to leave to be closer to his family in Pennsylvania. Fangio and the Eagles had an interest in working together in 2023, but the timing didn't work. This time, it will." Now, Sirianni and Howie were, of course, asked about this, and they didn't really say much. They just said they're interviewing a lot of candidates right now, but you just have to imagine that Fangio is, in fact, the favorite. We know that Fangio was a consultant for the Eagles defense in 2022 that obviously had a lot of success. We also know that, like Adam Schefter said, they had wanted to work together the following year, but the timing didn't work. But now they're going to get that opportunity in 2024 if they want it. And look, I'm not going to say that Fangio is 100% going to be the DC, but you'd have to imagine that's the most likely scenario based on what Schefter said. So how do I feel about that? Well, I think it's interesting. There's probably both positives and negatives. I mean, on one hand, we know that Sirianni likes defensive coordinators that run the Fangio scheme, which is a more conservative style that utilizes softer zones to prevent the deep ball, and also doesn't blitz as much while relying on the defensive line to have a lot of success. So if you're going to stick with that same scheme, you might as well go out and get the guy himself. And we also have seen the Eagles have success with this scheme in the past, but we've also seen it probably more often not work out very well. So I don't know. I really was kind of looking for a switch up of the defensive identity, but if they do hire Fangio, I'm going to give him a chance. I mean, if he was a big reason for the Eagles' defensive success in 2022, then I guess it can't be the worst thing in the world. And again, if they stick with the Fangio scheme, they might as well get the guy himself. And Fangio has historically been a fantastic defensive coordinator, especially when given talent, and we know the Eagles have that, and they should be able to bring in even more this offseason. Then again, it's not a foregone conclusion, and someone else very well could still end up being the DC, but it's certainly looking like it's going to end up being him. So what do you guys think? Do you like the idea of Fangio coming in and being the next defensive coordinator or not? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Now, regardless of who the Eagles hire as the coordinators, we know that the most pressure is going to be on Nick Sirianni. Everyone was calling for his job after this year. I had said previously that I wouldn't mind if he was fired, and that's saying something considering I was Sirianni's biggest fan heading into the season, but we know at this point that's not going to happen. Sirianni's going to be the head coach in 2024, but the pressure's on. He has a lot of work to do to prove himself again to this organization and this city, and he knows that, as he spoke to that during his exit press conference, and he also kind of made a promise.
Now, in my mind, you better believe I'm thinking, how do I reprove myself, right? I was a young coach that Mr. Laurie and Howie and this organization trusted to give the job to. I had to prove myself that, you know, this guy can lead, you know, the organization like they asked me to, and I had to prove myself from then. And I think that you better believe that I'm thinking after that 1-6 finish, after starting the way we started and doing the things that we've done in the past, that I'm thinking, I'm going to prove them right again, that, you know, and we're going to prove them right. We got to reprove ourselves. We got to go prove it again. And so that's how I feel right now. That's how, you know, I'm attacking this offseason. That's how I'm attacking this upcoming, you know, season as we get ready for it. Just hungry to be able to prove myself again to, you know, Mr. Lurie and the faith he's had in me, and Howie and the faith he's had in me, and the rest of the team and the city.
Look, I know a lot of us are mad at Sirianni right now, and I'm definitely not happy with him either, but at the end of the day, he's going to be our head coach next year, so let's just give him a chance to learn from his mistakes, bring the right guys in, and fix the problems. He's going to get this year. We know that. We can't do anything about it, so that's all we can really do as fans. And hopefully he's able to turn it around. Now, we're going to be covering the Eagles coaching search as well as just the entire Eagles offseason, so if you don't want to miss any Eagles updates, make sure you subscribe and also, really importantly, turn on notifications. Also, drop a like down below if you did enjoy this video and want to show some support, and leave a comment down below just regarding anything that I talked about in this video. And if you want to watch another Eagles video, you can go check this one out right here. Now, with all that being said, that's pretty much all I got for this one, guys. So thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.